Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going over day 2 of the official spoilers for Outlaws of Thunder Junction, talking about some of the combos, the synergies that we're going to see coming up in standard and other older formats. And today we got Roxxan, which is a 5-mana 4/3 cat druid, legendary. And it says, whenever Roxxan enters the battlefield or attacks, create a tapped colorless artifact token named Meteorite. And Meteorite enters the battlefield, deals 2 damage to any target, and it taps to add 1 mana of any color. And also another ability, when you tap an artifact token for mana, add 1 mana of any type of that artifact token produced. So this works with treasures or any other sort of artifact that you can tap to produce mana. It doubles that. But I thought this card is pretty strong. Reminds me of Goldspan Dragon a bit. Kind of 5 mana, creates extra mana when it comes in, does damage right away. You can target your opponent's creatures, which is really strong, but I thought the most powerful effect here was to try to double up its come into play and attack ability. So Roaming Throne came to mind. If you play Roaming Throne on 4 and name Cat or Druid, then when you play Roxxan on 5, it doubles up that meteorite, so you get 2 meteorites, and then the next turn you can use both of them to tap for mana, so you could do 4 damage to something, 2 and 2 to something else. Also, giving this thing haste would be really good, because then you would be able to get the come to play tapped ability and then attack with it right away. Or I thought of the Apprentice's Folly would be quite the follow-up to this on the next turn. You get a copy of it, and then that comes into play, triggers, gets a meteorite. You get to attack with it because it has haste. You get another meteorite, and then all the meteorites that you have that you can tap, or any other artifact mana that you have, will now triple because you have 2 Roxxans out. So that would be a pretty nice sequence of plays there. Yeah, so I think a very strong card, has a lot of potential to see play in standard. Let me know if you have any other combos with Roxxan that you can think of. But I think this is going to see play ramping into it. Again, you could ramp into it on to turn 4, so you could go turn 3, Roaming Throne, turn 4, Roxxan. That would be pretty strong play. Next, we've got Kellen Joins Up, a 3-mana legendary enchantment. And it says, when it enters the battlefield, exile a non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your hand. And if you do, it becomes plotted. And again, plot means that you can cast it as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost. And whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So the second part is strong, and maybe this will see play in some sort of legendary creature deck. But just like the Jace from yesterday that we saw, that has this kind of same ability that lets you exile a non-land card from your hand and plot it. You can use this, I believe you can use this, tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but you can use this Valky again to plot it, and then the next turn you can cast the backside, the Tybalt, the 5-mana Tybalt on the backside. And I think you can do the same with Bramble Familiar, which, because it has a mana cost of 2, but you can plot it, and then on the next turn, say turn 4, you can catch Fetch Quest, which would be pretty strong mana discount for that. So there's definitely some combo potential here with this card, as well as the Jace. So you could maybe play all of those in the same deck to kind of cheat these things out. Or just in a Legendary Matters deck, and Valky itself is a legend, so kind of has some synergy there too. Moving on, we've got Magda and Vmir, which are both legendary 2-mana creatures. Magda says, when you commit a crime, create a tap treasure token. You can sack 3 treasures to create a 4/4 red Scorpion Dragon creature token with flying and haste. And then Vmir, whenever you commit a crime, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. It triggers only once each turn. And then if it has 4 more +1/+1 counters, it's Menace and Lifelink. So both of these are legendary creatures that trigger when you commit a crime. So maybe there's some theme going on there, that maybe we get more of those kind of same themes in this set. But they both work quite well with Tiny Bones, because if you play Tiny Bones on turn 1, then you can have your opponent discard a card. Then you play either of these on turn 2, they trigger the committing a crime right away. So you get a counter on the Vmir right away. They'd lose one and have to mill a card. For Magda, you'd create a treasure right away. So that would be pretty strong. And then I thought of like Magda, like flick a coin would be pretty nice because that can commit a crime and also creates a treasure token. So you could go like turn 1 Tiny Bones joins up, make them discard. Magda, commit a crime, create a treasure. Turn 3, flick a coin, maybe kill one of their creatures if you got lucky, or just go one to the face, draw a card, create 2 treasures, stack the treasures, create a dragon with flying attack. So that would be a nice kind of sequence there. So take a look at to see what's in the rest of the set, but it seems like maybe there's this theme of these legendary creatures that commit crimes, and so kind of all putting them in the same deck might have a lot of synergy. We've got Lively Dege. Don't know if I pronounced that right, probably not. It's a 2-mana sorcery with spree, so you can pay additional costs. 1 additional mana to search your library for a card, put it directly in your graveyard, then shuffle, plus 2 mana to return up to 2 creature cards with total mana value 4 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So first thing I thought about was Amalia combo, which this kind of, if you have 5 mana, it directly can search up your Amalia and your Wildgrowth Walker and put them both into play. I'm sure there's other combinations of cards in older formats. Let me know in comments what other kind of combos this like directly searches up. It could be a 3-drop and a 1-drop. It could be 2 2-drops. I thought it might also go well in Greasefang because it could let you search up the Parhelion, and then if your Greasefang is in the graveyard, you could bring it back and go off immediately. And it also could just, sort of set up a reanimation spell and sort of search for anything you want on turn 3, put it in the grave, and then turn 4, in standard, for example, a restoration, and then just get it back into play whatever kind of big creature you want. So I think this card's got a lot of combo potential, a lot of potential to sort of set up combos in a way that I don't think this effect really has been printed in standard or any sort of format to directly search your library for a card and put it into the graveyard. So pretty excited for that. I think that'll enable a lot of combos as well. Next up, we've got Step Between Worlds, a 5-mana sorcery. Each player may shuffle their hand and graveyard into their library. Each player who does draw 7 cards and then you exile it. It's got plot for 6 mana. I'm not sure if you would use that all that much, although you could sort of plot it and then the next turn kind of like go off with a storm kind of deck. The way I'm picturing this working maybe in standard would be there's these cards that really care about how many cards you've drawn that turn. Duelist of the Mind and Prophetic Memory. In the previous video I talked about Duelist of the Mind, and so maybe this card just goes into that deck. Like if you have both of these out, Duelist of the Mind, and you cast this, since you're going to draw 7, it's going to have 8 power, and then you're going to put 7+1/+1 counters on it, or any other creature that you want. So it seems pretty strong and probably game winning. Note that it does say it's a may. Each player may shuffle their hand and graveyard, so you can't force your opponent to do that. Otherwise, it would be quite good with like Sheldred and effects like that punish your opponent for drawing cards. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about for this card. Let me know if there's other combos. I mean, anything that says draw 7 has got some potential. But this might be the best home for it. We've also got 3 Steps Ahead, which is a 1-mana instant, and spree for +2 mana to counter target spell, +3 mana to create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control, and then +2 to draw 2 cards, discard a card. So a lot of flexibility here. I think this card may seem play just sort of outside of any sort of potential, probably just like in a control deck. I could see it seeing some play, but the combo I thought of was sort of Ardent Elementalist in standard, which is 4 mana, comes into play, you return an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. So this is kind of expensive, maybe clunky, maybe it's not going to actually see any play, but I thought you could, turn 3, you could use the 3 Steps Ahead to counter their spell, whatever they play. Turn 4, play out the Elementalist for turn 3 Steps Ahead, and now once you have the Elementalist in play, you can you can either just pay 4 mana to keep creating copies of it in this maybe chump block, and getting the 3 steps ahead back, because the Ardent Elementalist is going to let you bring it back to your hand. Or if you have 6 mana, you can do the first 2 modes, and anytime they play a spell, you counter it, and then you make a copy of Ardent Elementalist. And so you can kind of essentially lock your opponent out of the game at some point if you get to that state where they can't remove your Elementalist and you're kind of ahead on board. You can just continually hold up 6 mana and counter anything they play. And if they don't play anything, you can just make another copy of the Elementalist, I suppose, or you can loot as well and make a copy of it. So a lot of flexibility. I think this is pretty strong, though it does require a lot of mana and setup, so might not see some play, but I thought it was kind of fun to think about how you might combo with this card. Next, we've got Bristly Bill Spine Sower, 2 mana 2/2 with landfall. This is whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So I think this card's pretty strong. In general, it kind of scales up with every land you play, and getting to be able to put +1/+1 counters on creatures is strong. There's a lot of +1/+1 counter synergies already. But I thought maybe this could be quite strong in sort of a landfall deck. There's already sort of this landfall deck with Aftermath Analyst and these kind of the fetch lands that we have in standard, like this Courtyard that you can sacrifice. So that would trigger landfall twice. But yeah, let me know what other combos you kind of think of this one. There is some +1/+1 counter synergies that you could kind of use with this as well. So I think this could see some play in some of those decks. And it is a plant. I just noticed it is a plant, so maybe there's some plant synergy. I believe there's a plant card in standard too. So maybe it will work there. Okay, we got Visage Bandit, which is 4 mana for a 2/2, and you have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature you control, except it's a shapeshifter rogue in addition to its other types. And it's got plot for 3 mana. This is interesting. There's a lot of sort of 4 mana clone cards already in standard. None of them see any play really. They're not particularly powerful. But this one is, I think, a little different because it lets you plot it for 3 mana. And then that means on turn 4, if you play something you want to copy right away, you could, which is kind of interesting and unique. I thought about Ratabrick, I believe that's how you pronounce that. Which is this legendary zombie wizard that you could play, and then so you plot this on turn 3, then turn 4 you play a 4-drop you want to copy. Ratabrick, when you would copy it, you create a token that's a copy of that. So if it dies, if it's legendary, then it will die right away, and you'll get back a token that's another copy of Ratabrick. So then you would have 2 of them out, and then you can kind of set up. I know there's some combos that go off with Ratabrick and standard, so maybe this is a way to kind of set that up. I'm not super familiar with that deck, but maybe I thought this might be a way to set it up. I also thought, like, okay, whatever, 4 drops, maybe Geological Appraiser could be kind of sweet if you went turn 3, plot, turn 4, Geological Appraiser, discover 3 into, I don't know, something strong, a big 3-drop, and then you copied it and get another Geological Appraiser, get another 3-mana spell, and just kind of, I don't know, have a big turn on turn 4. So paying 3 mana to kind of get a 4-drop is exciting as well. So maybe some potential there. And then we've got some lower rarity. We got the Crafty Coyote, which is a sweet one. I think this one may just see some play in mono red as it is. Just a kind of a 2/2 with haste that can pump up your 1-drop, basically getting in for 3 damage right away is pretty strong. But it also has plot 2, and I thought, okay, we could plot it on 2, and then maybe there's a 3-drop that you really want to give haste that could be strong with this. I thought of Gix and Preacher the Schism, both as sort of 3-drops. Plot this on 2, turn 3, play the Gix, give it haste, attack with both, maybe get in with both, ideally, and then draw 2 cards. It'll be pretty strong. Also, just getting in with the Preacher kind of triggers its ability, so being able to attack right away is pretty strong. Devilish Valet also has some synergy here because you really want to sort of play the Valet and then play a bunch of creatures right away to trigger its alliance. And this is a way to kind of plot on 2, play the Valet on 3, and then play the Coyote, which would then, you can target it and give it +1 power, and then you can order the triggers however you want. Then the Valet would double that, so it would be 4, and then if you could play another creature that turn, it would be, you could double to 8. So has some potential, I think, with Valet, but may need some other support there. So I think this card's great. I think it's going to see some play if it's just in mono red, but maybe in this like red black kind of style of deck that you want to give your creatures haste. All right, and then lastly we've got Eartha Joe, which is 4 mana Boros Core Advisor. Comes into play, you get this 1/1 red mercenary creature token, and then it's got this static, and it says whenever you activate an ability that targets a creature or player, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. This is a new, don't think I've seen this on a creature before, this ability, but excited to kind of see what this could do. The only card I could think of that was kind of really powerful with this is the Filigree Silex, the last mode. If you have 10 oil counters, so like some sort of oil deck, it would double that ability because it targets, you target the player and do 20. I think there's already some cards in Standard that may double this ability, I believe, but this is another kind of redundancy to that effect if we needed it. Let me know in the comments about this one too. I feel like this one is hard. It's hard for me to think of exactly what would be really good with this. Obviously, the mercenary tokens get doubled when you target things, so that's pretty strong. But yeah, it has to be an ability, so it can't be a spell. So those are my thoughts on day 2 of Murders of Carla, or not Murders, day 2 of spoilers for Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Thank you. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What decks are you excited to build? What spoilers or combos did I miss? And yeah, I hope to see you guys in the next video. I'll probably be back tomorrow with some more combos.